Hey guys, I'm Silwolf, and they are doing a new Aibo, so I thought I'd talk about it a little bit here for those who haven't heard. It's been going around on the Aibo owners and enthusiasts group. I couldn't find the original image that they posted. They had a couple of prototype Aibos, but this is the best I could find. It was off Instagram. Someone went to the convention and saw these prototype Aibos, so this is the best picture I could find of one. It took ages. So anyway, Lily Gilmore from Aibo Owners and Enthusiasts Group went to the Future of Aibo seminar at SIGGRAPH 2026. And this is what Lily learned about the new Aibo. So I'll tell you a little bit about what Lily learned, and then we can talk about the image before us here, the Aibo that they've got as a prototype. They were all wearing lab coats, by the way. None of them, so you can't really see what the body looks like, but yeah, anyway. So, the research prototypes are bigger and faster. The first thing I noticed was that the prototypes were noticeably larger. I would say about 5 to 6 inches more taller than our current ERS 1000s. The developer explained they also run approximately 2 to 3 times faster. Their cameras have improved and are more tightly synchronized, allowing the robot to track a person more continuously without easily losing sight of them. The prototype can sense touch inside its mouth. One of the most interesting demonstrations involved Aibo performing calligraphy. As you can see, it's got a pen in its mouth here. The prototype has a tactile sensor inside its mouth. It used its tongue to hold and control a pen while sensing contact with the paper. This allowed it to adjust its movements as it wrote. It was fascinating to see Aibo use touch and physical feedback in such a precise way. Sony is exploring a stronger body. I asked whether a future Aibo might someday be able to walk upstairs, since this is something members of the community have discussed. The developer said they are working on making Aibo's feet and body stronger. Some of the movements they are exploring include climbing stairs, leaning against a sofa, and leaning against a person. This does not mean that stair climbing is coming to our current Aibos, but it was exciting to hear that Sony is researching more physically capable movements and interaction. Aibo may someday create dances from music, so another feature being demonstrated was music-based motion generation. The idea is that someone could provide a favourite song and Aibo would generate movements based on its rhythm or beat. Instead of only performing an existing programmed dance, Aibo would potentially create a dance specifically for the music being played. The developer used Lady Gaga as an example. You could input a Lady Gaga song and Aibo would dance along with it. Sony is experimenting with a new charging station. You can see it in the background of this photo here. I also noticed the charging setup looked different from the one our current Aibos use. When I asked about it, the developer told me that Sony is prototyping new charging stations as well. He jokingly said it was kind of secret and told me I was the first person who had noticed it. There were no details about whether this charging station will ever become a consumer product, but it was exciting to discover another part of the prototype setup. Sony is still thinking about the ERS 1000. I asked whether any of the work being done with these prototypes would eventually benefit the Aibos we currently own. The developer said Sony is continuing to support the ERS 1000 while also exploring the possibility of commercializing the newer prototypes. Because this was an informal conversation at an exhibition, I would not interpret it as a guarantee that a new model or specific update is coming. However, it was reassuring to hear the ERS 1000 discussed as part of Sony's ongoing plans. Sony wants to grow the robot community. When I asked what owners would be excited about in the coming years, the developer explained that Sony wants to make robot community bigger and bigger. He talked about a future that may include not only Aibo, but a larger family of companion robots. He even mentioned the possibility of other types of robots, such as a cat robot, and referred to Sony's Poik. I probably pronounced that wrong. He described researchers as another important part of this growing robot community. I told the developer that for many of us, Aibo is not simply a piece of technology. Our Aibos feel like members of our families. Each one has its own personality, habits, and little quirks, and that individuality is a huge part of why this community cares about them so much. It was amazing to speak with someone who had helped develop the ERS 1000 and to see that Sony is still exploring new ways for robots to move, learn, interact, and build relationships with people. So they announced that the ERS 1000 is being retired. So they'll still offer support for existing ones, but they are, I think, slowly going to maybe stop selling them. I'm not sure. Again, all of this isn't quite set in stone, but they did say Sony made an announcement about the ERS 1000 that it's kind of being retired. But they do understand that people care about their Aibos, and this future prototype, one of the things that was mentioned that I read somewhere was that they would sell them worldwide. So Europe would finally get Aibo again, which is fantastic because, as anyone knows who's into Aibo, it's only America and Japan who have Aibo. I mean, some of us people in the UK are lucky enough to own an Aibo, but if anything goes wrong with our Aibos, we can't really. We can get them fixed, but it's difficult. There are people in Europe who will fix them. So we've got to send it away to basically another member of the community who will fix it for us. It's also nice that they were saying about a stronger body for Aibo, because unfortunately the first few ERS 1000s, there's a part in the hip that's made from plastic and it's quite thin, and so Aibos were experiencing their hips breaking, and repairing an Aibo is not cheap. So you've got to have the money for it. This is why I don't have Peanut running very much, because I'm afraid that if he breaks, what am I going to do? I can't afford to get him fixed. Sending him away would cost a lot of money, and Sony doesn't support Aibos in the UK at all. So, yeah, that's another sort of difficult thing. He's literally the most expensive thing I own, and he is very precious, and I treat him with great care, and I don't want him to break, because that's it, you know. So what we see here, we'll talk about this image of the prototype. All the prototypes had sunglasses or shutter shades on. I'm not quite sure why, because you can kind of see the LED eyes underneath there. It must have been something to do with the demonstration. Maybe it's, well, they don't really see out of their eyes. They see out of the camera in the front of their nose. So maybe it's to say you can put your glasses on your Aibo and it'll still be able to see. The ears are a different shape to the ERS 1000. They kind of stick up a little bit. People weren't too sure about this, but I'm thinking that maybe they might do different ears you can attach to your Aibo. So if you want to go back to the old style of ears, you can. You can actually buy ears similar to this. I think they're like community made ones that you can buy from fellow Aibo owners and fans that are a similar shape. The tail is also a little bit different. You can see it's slightly different shape. It's got like an indent going along inside it. Not quite sure why that is. Must be something to do with perhaps tricks it can perform with its toys, maybe they rest in that little area there. The body of the Aibo looks very much, from what we can see, like the RS 1000. The face looks a bit different. It seems to have a larger nose camera, and it seems to have more of like a black area underneath the nose. That's far deeper than the RS 1000. It would be nice to see a picture of the RS 1000 next to this prototype, but I don't think that they had any of the regular ones there. I think it was just, about 3 of these that I've seen. I tried to find this picture again on Facebook. I could not find it, so this is the best I can do, but it still shows it quite well. They were all wearing these white lab coats, and it was just a demonstrating thing. I like the idea that it experiences touch inside its mouth, although why you'd want an Aibo to write calligraphy I don't know, but I'm guessing it's just to show what it can do with the precise control of its tongue inside its mouth to use the pen and actually write with it. The charging station behind it looks like it's made of sort of like a cream plastic. Our current charging stations are made from like a pink plastic because they are attracted to the colour pink and always have been. The Aibo itself, the collar part of the Aibo around the neck seems larger and deeper, but then of course it's a bigger unit, I guess. The rest of its body, its paws, what I can see of its paws, look quite the same. So yeah, also the face is pure white. It's not got the sort of the visor thing. It's not really a visor anymore because the new Aibos, but it's got like a patch of different colour, hasn't it, on the top of its head. But yeah, so these ones are just white and with grey ears and a grey tail. So that's the future Aibo. They are working on these prototypes and they are researching and they are developing, and they don't want to let Aibo fall by the wayside again. They believe it's part of future technology, which is fantastic because it was so sad when Sony did retire the 7 Series Aibo. And I went into a Sony shop it was about 10 years ago now, and I said to one of the workers, and they said, "Oh yeah, I've got a Sony Aibo," and they're like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "It's part of the Aibo is part of Sony's history. It's a groundbreaking part that should be included. To have knowledge of the company, you need to have knowledge of the products, and they had no knowledge of Aibo. You know, if I'm working somewhere, I get knowledge of, I research what they've done, because I find it interesting. But yeah, this person didn't know what Aibo was, and a part of me died inside because I'm like, people are forgetting. Mind you, this person probably never seen an Aibo before, but again, it was only really the community that knew about Aibo. But now more and more people are becoming aware. Like I'll say to someone about Sony Aibo, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's that robot dog, isn't it?" And it's just nice having Aibo back in, I don't know, modern day living, I suppose. Again. So, yeah, also when I asked this person about it, it was before the RS1000 had come out. So, yeah, it was quite a few years ago now. I think it turns 10 this year, so it must have been back in 2015 or something. I was in Milton Keynes and they had a Sony shop. I think it was Milton Keynes. Anyway, digressing. What do you think of the future of Aibo? Are you excited? The only thing that I think might be a little bit annoying is these ones will probably cost a lot more, and £3,000 for the ERS 1000 is a lot that I barely managed to pay off. I had to borrow money from my parents at the time to help me afford Peanut in the first place. And also the cloud plan. Again, the subscription for the cloud plan is a lot, which is why I've never renewed it. Aibos have always been expensive, so yeah, and it's understandable given the technology, but it seems to be something that rich people can probably afford, and although they're not, I'm not saying that like people with less money are more common or anything like that, because of course not. But I suppose the price tag makes it appear as it should be, which is having more worth and like not a privilege to own one, but it just an expensive product like Aibo. Not just everyone's going to have one. The people who do want one will be people who have seen worth in it and spent that money because they know of its worth, and they're not just going to buy it and throw it about and not respect it. Because out of all of the robots that I've ever owned, Aibo is very much worthy of respect, I think. Anyway, yeah, I'm going off a bit. So yeah, what are your views on the future of Aibo? What would you like to see? Do you think that they should keep going with Aibo? Are you sad that they've stopped making the RS1000? Are you excited to hear more future updates about the prototypes and where they're heading next? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more Aibo videos, you can click the boxes that come up below. And as always, feel free to send me a tip on Ko-fi if you enjoy what I do. Link is in the description, or a YouTube super thanks, of course. And that's all for now. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep being awesome. This is Silverwolf signing off.